Saram students, I hope you all are fine. Today let us continue with history. Lesson number 5, Kingdoms, Kings and an Early Republic. Children, in our previous class we had learned about how some men became rulers. That is around 3000 years ago. We found some changes that had taken place in the ways in which Rajas were chosen, and some men, they were then recognized as Rajas by performing very big sacrifices, and Ashwamedha or horse sacrifice was one such ritual in which a horse was let loose to wander freely, and it was guarded by the Raja's men. And if the horse wandered into the kingdoms of other Rajas and they stopped it, that means they had to fight. And if they allowed the horse to pass, it meant that they accepted that the Raja who wanted to perform the sacrifice was stronger than them. And these Rajas were then invited to the sacrifice. And the Raja who organized the sacrifice was recognized as being very powerful. And all those who came brought gifts for them. And we also learnt about Varnas, that is, the priests divided the people into 4 groups called Varnas, and according to them, each Varna had a different set of functions. That is, we learnt about Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Shudras. And children, today we shall learn about Janapadas and Mahajanapadas. Now children, let's learn about Janapadas. The Rajas who performed these big sacrifices, they were now recognized as being Rajas of Janapadas rather than Janas. Janas means people. The word Janapada literally means the land where the Jana set its foot and settled down. This means that the Raja who performed the big sacrifices, they were recognized as stronger and powerful, and their kingdom was called as a Janapada. Jana means people, Pada means foot. So the word Janapada means the place where the people set their foot or settled down. And the archaeologists, they have excavated a number of settlements in these Janapadas, such as Purana Qila in Delhi, Hastinapur near Meerut, and Atranjikhera near Etah. Hastinapur and Atranjikhera, they are in Uttar Pradesh. So, what have the archaeologists excavated? Archaeologists, they have excavated a number of settlements in these Janapadas. And where is Purana Qila? Purana Qila is in Delhi. And where is Hastinapur? Hastinapur is near Meerut. And where is Atranjikhera? Atranjikhera is near Etah. And they found that people, they lived in huts and kept cattle as well as other animals. And they also grew a variety of crops such as rice, wheat, barley, pulses, sugarcane, sesame and mustard. So what did they grow? They grew a variety of crops such as rice, wheat, barley, pulses, sugarcane, sesame and mustard. And they made earthen pots, and some of these were grey in color, others were red. And one special type of pottery that was found at these sites, it is known as painted grey ware. And these grey pots, they had painted designs, usually simple lines and geometric patterns. So children, what did they make? They made earthen pots. And what was the color of the pots? Some were grey while others were red. And what was the special type of pottery that was found at these sites? One special type of pottery that was found at this site, it is known as painted grey ware. And what was there on the grey pots? These grey pots, they had painted designs, usually simple lines and geometric patterns. Now let us learn more about the painted grey ware, that is the plates and the bowls. They are the most common vessels that are made out of painted grey ware. and these are extremely fine to touch with a nice smooth surface, and perhaps these were used on special occasions for important people and to serve special food. So children, what are the most common vessels that are made out of the painted grey ware? Plates and bowls are the most common vessels that are made out of the painted grey ware. And what is the texture of these pots? These pots, they are extremely fine to touch with a nice smooth surface. And how were these used? These were used on special occasions for important people and to serve special food. Now children, let us learn about Mahajanapadas. About 2500 years ago, some Janapadas, they became more important than others and they were known as Mahajanapadas. And most Mahajanapadas, they had a capital city. Many of these were fortified. This means that huge walls of wood, brick or stone were built around them. This means that around 2500 years ago, some Janapadas, they became stronger, bigger and more important than others. So they were called as Mahajanapadas. Maha means huge, and most Mahajanapadas, they had a capital city and many of these were fortified. That means they were protected with huge walls of wood, brick or stone. Children, here in this map you can see important Janapadas, Mahajanapadas and cities. Some of them are Takshila, Vaishali, Rajagraha, Hastinapur, Kuru, Magda, Vajji, etc. And the forts were probably built because people, they were afraid of the attacks from other kings and needed protection. And it is also likely that some rulers, they wanted to show how rich and powerful they were by building really large, tall and impressive walls around their cities. So children, why did the Rajas of Mahajanapadas build forts? They probably built forts because people, they were afraid of the attacks from other kings and so they needed protection. And it is also likely that some rulers, they wanted to show that they are very rich and they are very powerful, and so they build really large, tall and impressive walls around their cities. And also in this way, the land and the people living inside the fortified area could be controlled more easily by the king. Building such huge walls required a great deal of planning. This means that the land and the people, those who were living inside the fortified area, that is inside the huge walls that were made of wood, brick or stone. So it was easy for the king to control them. And building such walls, what did it require? It required a great deal of planning. And thousands, if not lakhs, of bricks or stones had to be prepared. This in turn meant enormous labor, provided possibly by thousands of men, women and children. And resources had to be found for all of this. So children, what had to be prepared? Thousands, if not lakhs, of bricks or stones had to be prepared. So what did they need for this? They needed enormous labor. That is, they needed thousands of men, women and children. They must have been involved in building such huge forts, and they also needed resources for all of this. And the new Rajas now began maintaining armies, and the soldiers, they were paid regular salaries and they were maintained by the king throughout the year. And some payments, they were made probably using punch marked coins. This means that the new Rajas of Mahajanapadas, they began maintaining the armies. For that they needed soldiers. So the king, they maintained the soldiers throughout the year. For that they had to pay regular salaries to them. So some payments they made were probably by using the punch marked coins. Children, here you can see the image of the punch marked coins. That is, these coins, they were not inscribed, but they were stamped with symbols using punches. Hence they are called as the punch marked coins. Children, here you can see the fortification wall at Kaushambi. This is a picture of remains of a wall that was made of brick, and it is found near present day Allahabad, that is in Uttar Pradesh, and a part of it was probably built about 2500 years ago. So for building a fort, Mahajanapadas they needed a lot of work and resources, and the resources and work they came from the people, and so the people they need to be paid. So children, can you think how did the kings got the money for all this? We shall learn about this in our next class. Now children, let's recap what we have learnt in this lesson. Children, today we learnt about Janapadas, that is the Rajas who performed these big sacrifices, that is Ashwamedha Yagya. They were recognized as being Rajas of Janapadas, and the word Janapada literally means the land where the Jana set its foot and settled down. And archaeologists have excavated a number of settlements in these Janapadas, such as Purana Qila in Delhi, Hastinapur near Meerut, and Atranji Khera near Etah. And they found that people they lived in huts and kept cattle as well as other animals, and they also grew variety of crops, and they made earthen pots. Some were grey and others were red, and a special type of pottery was found at these sites, and it was known as painted grey ware. And these grey pots they had painted designs, usually simple lines and geometric patterns. Children, here in this image you can see painted grey ware. These are extremely fine to touch with a nice smooth surface, and perhaps these were used on special occasions for important people and to serve special food. And we also learned about Mahajanapadas, that is about 2500 years ago some Janapadas they became more important than others, and they were known as Mahajanapadas. And most Mahajanapadas they had a capital city. Many of these were fortified, which means that huge walls of wood, brick or stone were built around them. And there were various reasons for building forts. They were probably built because people were afraid of attacks from other kings and needed protection. And some rulers they probably built forts to make their cities impressive and to show how rich and powerful they were. Moreover, by making forts, controlling the fortified area, it became easier for the kings. And building forts required a great deal of planning, and thousands, if not lakhs, of bricks or stones had to be prepared. So, enormous amount of labor and resources were required. And the new Rajas now began maintaining armies, and the soldiers were paid regular salaries, and they were maintained by the king throughout the year. And some payments were probably made using punch marked coins. Now children, let's have a quiz. Multiple choice questions. First one, where is Purana Qila situated? A. Delhi, B. Agra, C. Kolkata, D. None of these. What's the correct option? Yes, A. Delhi. Purana Qila is situated in Delhi. Second one, about 2500 years ago, What turned into Mahajanapadas? A. Ordinary Janapadas. B. Important Janapadas. C. Both A and B. D. None of these. What's the correct option? Yes. B. Important Janapadas. About 2500 years ago, important Janapadas turned into Mahajanapadas. Third one. In what mode were the payments made? A. Gold coins. B. Paper notes. C. Punch marked coins. D. Silver coins. What's the correct option? Yes. C. Punch marked coins. So the punch marked coins were the mode of payments that were made. So children, today we have done part 2 of history lesson number 5. We shall continue with this lesson in our next class. Till then, goodbye children.